Get started.
All right, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to session A4. We hope that you enjoyed today's session and you're able to find it useful in helping you to connect to your students and your family. So I'm Karla Roy, and Elizabeth is going to be operating the slides. So she's my Vanna, so I'm gonna tell her, next slide, please. So we did a Google slide here. So Elizabeth, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I'm Karla Roy, and I'm a teacher at Park Street School in Fredericton. I think I'm in about my 19th year of teaching, and most of that has been at Park Street. I've been there for a number of years, and I teach grade 3 English.
Yeah, and my name's Elizabeth Howlett. I also teach at Park Street School. I just finished my 7th year teaching, and all 7 years have been at Park Street School. So I teach French immersion. I've been kind of back and forth between grade 4 and grade 5.
All right, thanks. So can we go to the next slide, Elizabeth? Thank you. So we have been asked to present today and share with you what we have been learning and doing with FreshGrade over about the last 2.5 years almost at Park Street School, and how we've been using that to support student learning. So today we're going to talk about what FreshGrade is and move through that. So like we said, if you have any questions, just jot them down, and we'll get to them at the end of each slide, and then also at the end of the presentation, we'll have some extra time. So some of you may have tried FreshGrade in your classroom, or you're interested in getting started. Or maybe you want to get started today, so that's why you're here. So what is it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the topics that we'll be covering is that it's a platform to empower students and connect with their families. And Elizabeth will be covering in the future slides about how it can empower students in their learning in a few minutes. And I'll talk about how easy it is to have family involvement, collaboration, and communication in your classroom. So FreshGrade enables you to connect easily to your classroom remotely. We found out about this during COVID, and FreshGrade was a major platform that kept us in daily contact with our students and our families. So on FreshGrade, the students have their own student portfolio, and that's a private page only to them and to their families. And on each student portfolio, you can post evidence of student learning, pictures, files, assessments, etc. Whatever you can post up there, it can be there on that student's page, all tailored to that individual student. So in ASD-W, our district bought a license for FreshGrade last year. And so that the portfolio information that you post will remain on that student's portfolio and grow with them and go with them each school year. So whatever I posted last year to my grade 3 class will go to the grade 4 teacher, and all that information will be there. And parents can go through it during the years and see how their child has grown and what they've learned. But if you're not in ASD-W and your district didn't buy a license, you can use the free version, and that will keep the students' information for that year only, for that academic year in which you are posting. FreshGrade can also be used to differentiate instruction. Because each student has a private portfolio to showcase their learning, you can tailor and differentiate what instruction and activities that you post for your students. And it also offers assessment and timely feedback. And Elizabeth will discuss that when it comes to her turn. So we will be discussing more in depth about each topic that was just covered there in the future slides. So does anybody have any questions at this point before we go to the next slide? Oh, seeing a message.
I just wanted to let people know that the district has purchased a number of licenses this year. And some of you may know that already and some of you may not. But if it's something that you might be interested in, touch base with your admin. And Mark and I are both the support people for this particular platform. So we'll be able to get you started on that, just to give everybody a heads up on that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. If there's no questions, Elizabeth, we'll go to the next slide. All right, so you're interested in starting out. So how do you get started? So if you are with our district, you can reach out and get started that way. And you will log into FreshGrade through the one site, and that's all connected to PowerTeacher. So that way, when you do sign on in the fall and after your classroom has been created, all the information about each student will be connected and will show up on your FreshGrade. So you don't have to do anything but log in. All your students will be there, all their family information, their contact information, it will all be there. And you can also, if there's a specialist in your school that will be posting on FreshGrade, you can invite them to your portfolio so they can post as well. Or if you're team teaching with somebody, but I don't know if there's team teaching this year, but if you are, that can be, you can add another teacher as well. So, but if you don't have a license and you're signing up for the free version, which you can still use, the big difference is that you will not be linked to PowerTeacher. So you will have to input your student information. You will have to input your students and invite any specialist teacher to come in and join your classroom. So Elizabeth, what we're going to do now, Elizabeth has created just a separate account just to show you today. So we're just going to show you just briefly. This this presentation is not about how to sign up, but we're just going to show you briefly what it looks like once you get signed up. So
let's go to the FreshGrade page, freshgrade.com. Oops. There we go. So if you are signing up free and you don't have the district version, you can just click the sign up free there and go through the sign up process. Or if you already have an account, you're going to log in and use the classic login. And mine might take me right to my account because I was already signed in, but I'm going to choose FreshGrade Teacher. Yeah, mine took me right in, but I'm going to sign out just so you can see what it looks like. So here I put in my email address, my district address, and I have two accounts set up. So I have a free one set up and a district account set up. So you'll see here, Madame Howlett, managed by FreshGrade Free. That's my free account. And then I have the one managed by Anglophone West School District. So if I choose my Anglophone West School District one, it should prompt me to log in through the one site. So I can log in that way. Or if I do my free one that I use for a demo, then I would just go and enter my username and password and log in. Oops. Maybe I don't know what my password is.
That's okay. Oh.
Okay, I can always just go back to my other one. But yeah, so it's really easy to get signed up, to get started. There's a link down here to sign up for free as well. If you want to go and get started and you're not in Anglophone School District West and you don't have the district one.
All right, thank you. So once you get that logged on, you can then download, or you have downloaded the Teachers app. You can have that on your phone. You can have it on the classroom iPad. You can sign in through your laptop. So that way your classroom goes with you wherever you are. So wherever you are, you're connected to your students and to your families. All right, are there any questions? I see a couple have come up that have been answered, I think. They all been answered, or is there any more questions? Video. Yeah, I think everything. No new questions? All right, we'll move on to the next slide then. Okay, so now you're connected. Now what? All right, so you have your classroom all set up on FreshGrade and you're ready to roll. So the first thing you'll want to do before you invite your parents is to post something about each student in their individual portfolio to get started. So maybe you're going to snap a picture of them in the classroom, working on an activity, doing some classroom learning, any sort of artifact that you can gather about that student. You know, put one or two up before you invite your parents in. You can write a little sentence or two explaining what the activity is, what the learning outcome was, what they were doing. That way, if you do that before you roll it out to parents, there's something there when they go to log in. You don't want them to log on and have nothing there. They'll be like, oh, yeah, what's this about? And might not get not be interested in it. So getting families connected to this app is crucial for the success of it. You want your families involved so that communication can happen and to enhance each child's learning. Last fall, our school put out a big focus on how we could get parents signed up for it. Last year was, I think, yeah, the beginning of year 2, 1.5 or whatever that we were using it. And before that, we had parent participation, but it wasn't everybody. So, you know, a committee, you know, we talked about that in a few meetings about how could we get everybody involved. And that was our main platform for communication. We wanted at least one family member from each family connected to FreshGrade. So in the fall, we promoted it on our school website. We sent home information that talked about how to log on, what it was about. I believe FreshGrade has a letter that you can send home for that. We launched it at Meet the Teacher in the fall. So our admin talked about it with the whole school, and we talked about it with our individual parents. And our admin was also very supportive in helping any parents sign up if they were having problems, if they needed help with the app, how to download it or how to use it. They were very supportive that way. And we also made it very clear to parents that this was going to be our main communication tool. You know, we still have our school website that we post. We still post information about the school that comes from the office on it. But teachers, we don't use our pages. We use FreshGrade. So we had to make that very clear to parents that they needed this app. That was how they were going to stay connected to their students, to know what was going on at the school and in the classroom. We put everything on it. So I forget what the percentage was in the fall. Elizabeth, we had quite a few in the fall, didn't we? Almost everybody was on to FreshGrade after that launch. And like, we really pushed it in September. And we have over 420 students at our school. Once COVID hit and we were learning online, those parents that didn't log on, those few parents, they were logging on then and they had connected. So I don't know, I'd have to ask, but I think we had probably almost everybody signed on at that point. You want to ask the parents to get the app. There is a free app that they can put on their phone with all their other social media. They don't absolutely need it, but it is better because they get instant they can set their notifications up and get instant notification when you post something on the child's portfolio or on the class announcement page, or if the child posts. They'll get immediate notifications. If not, they'll get it sent to their email. So then once your class is set up, you go on and you send an invite to each parent to ask them to connect. Like I said before, if you're in ASD-W and you get the license that's already set up. You can also add additional emails if the parent had not sent that email in the fall. For example, during COVID, I had a family whose they were both working full time, and they were finding it difficult to keep up with the learning outcomes. So I added the sister. She was older, and I added her email so she could keep up and pass on the information to the son. So if you need to add somebody else to it later, you can. And again, if you're working with the free version, you need to input each email and send that invite out. You can also see if the parent has accepted it. Now, I found at COVID, when not everybody accepted it, I sent it out again. And then those parents were on board and they accept it. So, yeah. So with this, you have parents instantly knowing what's going on in the classroom, instantly updated about what they're learning that day, and then they're involved in the education of their child. So you post during the day, the child sees, or the parent sees that post, then they can discuss it at home with their child. They can ask you any questions if they're unsure what's going on. They can give their child praise and encouragement. You can have a text conversation going back and forth. And so everybody's connected. As we get going, Elizabeth's going to show you a little bit more about how you can use that for assessment with parents. So are there any questions from this slide? Oh, what's this? You can add step parents. Yep. Yeah, if the family member has asked to have somebody else who's a guardian of the child, you can add them as well, as long as, you know, as long as that's coming from the parent.
Yeah, I think you can add.
Or the main guardian. Pardon me, Elizabeth?
I think you can add just about as many people as you want. You can have 3, 4, 5 different people connected to one child's portfolio.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's really good for blended families. Like I said, whatever emails the parents provide at the beginning of the year, you know, on the form, the contact form that we send home, the main guardians are added, and then, you know, you can add anybody else. Easy peasy. All right, if there's no more questions, we'll go to the next slide then. So, learning opportunities and classroom connections. So, there are a number of ways you can provide learning opportunities and stay connected to your classroom using FreshGrade. So some of the examples are you can post learning objectives back, and when you post, you can post to the whole class and everybody can see it. There's also a section for just announcements. So let's say, for example, you're going on a field trip. You could put that just in the announcements. But if you want a student to watch a video, you could post that in the announcements or on their individual portfolio. So you can post activities, lessons, pictures, videos, links to websites, links to videos, so the whole class can see it. The only thing about videos is that there is a time limit. And some teachers found that during COVID when they were doing a read aloud or something like that, they then had to, excuse me, they had to make a video, and they made a YouTube page and made it private and just posted the link to the YouTube page on FreshGrade. So again, you can also post school news, files, anything to the announcement page. At Park Street, we send home very few pieces of paper as part of our communication to families. You know, at the beginning of the year, you get that book of papers that go home. After that, we send home very, very little unless it's something urgent. Everything that we post, everything about the school and about the classroom gets posted on FreshGrade. If it is something that's coming from the school, let's say from the office, they'll send us an email and say, could you please post this on FreshGrade? They'll have the message there. We copy and paste it and post it. And, you know, that just takes a matter of seconds to do that. Often if a teacher is doing something with a club, or if there's an activity going on that's coming from another teacher, they'll do the same. Say, could you please post this? Copy and paste, and bang, you put it on your announcements page, and the parents have that instantly. So there's also, you can also post to a group of students. Maybe you have a group of students working on a project, you know, a guided reading group, a group presentation, things like that. So there you can post examples of learning, maybe information that they need, assignments, and you can post that and only tag those students that are involved, and that will stay private on their portfolio. You can also post on individual portfolios when you need to. You can post examples of learning, pictures, any artifacts that show student learning on their portfolio. And only you and the family and the student can view and comment on that. Here you can offer the student praise and encouragement. You can offer next steps, answer parent questions. The parent can then offer feedback and keep up to date with what is going on in the classroom. Parents love this part. They may not always post about or comment, sorry, about what you posted, but I've always had parents bring up post in conversations, or they would stop me at the end of the day when they were picking up their child and just say, hey, I saw the picture of, you know, whatever activity, and that was great. So that really helps to strengthen the communication with home and builds collaboration with parents. And the individual post was extremely useful during COVID, especially when I needed to differentiate instruction, as I used this option for posting weekly learning objectives for my students who were on programs and they weren't getting everything. So I was able to personalize their learning, and you can also use this if you want to post any enrichment activities to, you know, one or a group of students. So are there any questions on this page?
We have one question here that says, can parents send messages to the teacher like in Class Dojo?
Well, I haven't used Class Dojo, but parents can comment on things. So if you post something and the parent comments underneath it, you will get that notification if you have that set up on your app. If it's anything, you know, if there's a discipline issue or anything like that, or something different, I would email. You know, you don't use FreshGrade going back and forth if it's something more sensitive.
And there is a link in FreshGrade where it says email teacher, and they just click the link and then it just like opens their email to send an email directly to you. So instead of a in-program messaging tool like Dojo, there's a link where you just click email teacher and then it generates an email to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, I think we'll move to the next slide. So what can you post? I've covered, I think, most of these through my previous slides. So basically, any information you want to get out to families, any artifacts that demonstrate student learning, all those things can be posted on FreshGrade. So what I'll do right now is I'm going to show you an example of a student's portfolio so you can see a little bit of what yours might look like. So I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to try, okay, Elizabeth? Share. Okay, there we go. All right, so I do have permission to show this student's portfolio. This was a student I had last year, and she's still on my FreshGrade until we go back and my next class is listed there. So if you have the licensed version, oh wait, no, I posted, well, sorry. I took that picture and posted that on there. Or you could get a student to take a selfie in the classroom, you know, if you have some iPads, or get the kids to take pictures. And then we went through and we added the child's picture. That way, if a specialist is linked into your account, it makes it easier if they're teaching, you know, hundreds of students to be able to see that child's picture. Plus, it just personalizes it a bit more. Now, as you can see up at the top, it says invite student to portfolio. That was a goal of mine last year. It was to get students on to FreshGrade, but because of COVID, it didn't happen. But it is going to be my goal this September to teach students how to use that. And Elizabeth will be talking more about that. It has the parents' names there. And again, says where it says manage parents, that's where you can add more. So now the next little bit is just all the information that I put up during COVID. So in these files was their learning activities for that week, and I gave a little description for things as we go down, like here, week 10, and there was different things. But as you can tell, and this little girl, she's quite the student. You can see how many views. I don't know if you can see that, but you can tell if somebody's viewed your file. And she viewed things a lot. She was a keen little girl while she was home during COVID working on things. Here, this was a talent show invitation that was sent from Elizabeth in June when she did an online talent show. So she just sent us that and said, could you put this on FreshGrade, please, and copy and paste, and we put it up. So I'm just going to scroll down because there's just all these weeks of COVID here, and you can just see each week and the learning activities and the description of things that were on there. I don't want to bore you guys right out here. So as we go down and see, there's a little text here between me and Mom. Here, there's a couple of posts put on by the music teacher. So he posted some things, and then he posted a link to his page where he just did things differently after that. So that was great. So the kids were able to stay connected to their music during COVID. Here was a Raz Kids. I just took a screenshot of that. I signed everybody up for Raz Kids. And so this had their login information, their password, their user ID. I didn't have to send that paper home. I just put it there. Nobody loses it, and it's there. Here I had a conversation back and forth with the mom, and then Alex chimed in, and she wrote to me, and it was all about an assignment that I had given them. And so it just increases that collaboration, gave her encouragement, and kept things going. It was wonderful. I'm just going to go pre-COVID here. So here's just an example. This was a math activity. And so students were doing group work and they were working on math. So you just snap a picture right underneath it about what you're doing and you send that home. Parents know instantly what the students are up to. Here's a picture. This was, I don't know if this was Pandemonium Week and a field trip, things like that you can post. This was when we won Parker Panda for the week, just working, showing different things like that. I do have a writing sample here. This was a letter to Santa. So it was something that I wasn't sending home, a writing piece, and I wanted the families to see it. So that way they knew what they asked Santa for. So just things like that. And here's Alex, she's presenting some writing. And that writing piece went home, but we were having an author celebration, so I threw that in there. Working on a STEAM project here, just things like that. You can put a little caption on the bottom of it and personalize it for each student. So is there any questions? I can't see, maybe we should go back. I'll go back to the page now. Can I do it? Stop sharing. Yes. Okay, on to Elizabeth. I didn't lose myself. Are there any questions about her portfolio? Or what a portfolio looks like or anything? Let's see here, get the conversation back up.
Looks good so far. We just had a comment about the purchase of iPads, and I just mentioned that if you think you're interested in using FreshGrade and you need a district issued iPad, I would touch base with your administration first, have that discussion, and then from there it would go to district office where Matt McGuire and possibly Diane Kay would be also part of that, and then see what's there for support. So that's something you might want to look into if you're new to using FreshGrade.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for answering that. All right, so if there's no questions there, we can move on. So that's the end of my portion of this. So I just want to thank everybody for coming today, and I hope that everybody takes time during the next week, our last week, to relax and recharge, and I hope that everybody remains healthy and safe this year. So next, we're going to move on to Elizabeth, and she's going to share with you about assessment and student use. So thank you, everyone.
All right, so I'm going to talk about how you can use FreshGrade to do formative assessment and use it to organize and record data tracking. I know a lot of people really like doing clipboard cruising. So FreshGrade kind of gives you an option to do clipboard cruising in a virtual way. Or if you still want to do clipboard cruising, if you're like me, when I have papers everywhere, I am bound to lose them. So I'd like to record my data digitally. That way it's organized. I don't have to sift through papers. I can easily look at my class. And in the past, I've used Excel to do that. I would make big Excel sheets and use colors and color coordinate it and make it all look nice. But FreshGrade kind of does that for you. So it takes out that extra step, and you can use FreshGrade to record all your formative assessment and data. So I'm just going to take you through a few of the features, kind of show you what it looks like and how it works. I did set up a demo account and just added a few things so I could show you some stuff without breaching any student privacy. Yeah, and all that formative assessment data, you can share it on the student's portfolio so that parents and guardians can see the formative assessment you're doing. That way, you're in constant communication, you're constantly sharing information with parents. When it comes time to issue a report card, there shouldn't be any surprises from parents when they get marks or report card comments. So the first thing I want to show you are the assessment tools. So the assessment tools are kind of like the rubric that you're going to use to do your formative assessment. So FreshGrade has a variety of assessment tools set up already that I'll show you. And you can also create customized assessment scales. So you can make an assessment scale that says whatever you want. So this is the one I typically use. This is what I would have done normally in Excel and color coded it all up, and you have a little icon for each one. So usually when I'm doing formative assessment, either the student's excelling, they're doing well, they need to keep practicing, or they require support. So that's generally the assessment skill I use. But if I go into my FreshGrade here, and hopefully it's going to work. I'm going to log back in to be safe since I logged out earlier. And hopefully my password is going to work this time. Oh, that's the wrong one. Back. This would be the one time that my account wouldn't work. It's when I'm showing it to a bunch of people. It's always the way.
Yay. Yes, save that password.
So when I log into FreshGrade, I have the option here to set up assessment tools. So like I said, there are a bunch of default ones that come with FreshGrade. So there's just a yes, no. So, you know, if you just want to look at whether a student is able to do something or complete something, yes, no, simple. You could even use it to keep track of whether or not students have handed things in. There's 4-point scales, 3-point scales. So you can set up whatever you want. So I'll show setting up a new tool. So one tool I like to use too is one that follows the report card guidelines. So if I'm looking at learning habits, for example, on the report card, it's usually rarely, sometimes, consistently, and routinely. So I could call this a frequency scale. So I could say consistently, and I can make that whatever color I want. I usually put green. I can do routinely. Again, I can click a little picture. I can do sometimes. We'll put a little scale there, and then I can do it rarely. But again, you could put absolutely whatever you wanted in here for your scale. And when you do enter formative assessment in FreshGrade, parents are going to be able to see it on the student portfolio. So I always try to make sure I use either district rubric language or friendly positive language. I don't want to put like not able to, or so you want to make sure that you're using some friendly language. Why do I have duplicates here? What's going on here? Frequencies Oh. Oh, I don't know why it's trying to make me fill out the points there. Oh, there we go. So FreshGrade is set up to where it can weight assignments so that, like, say you're in high school or something and you want to calculate grades. I always just take off the including grade calculations because, again, this is all formative stuff. I'm not using this necessarily to weight assignments and calculate a percentage grade or anything like that. We don't really do that in elementary school, so I just take off the grade calculations because, again, I'm using this for formative assessment to inform my data. So if I look at my assessment tools now, I have that frequency cell set up, and I can use that to record data. Anyone have any questions about the assessment tools? And on the next slide, I'm going to show you exactly what I do with it, but any questions about setting up a test assessment tool so far?
We just had one question. It's not about the setting up of the tool, and you might be showing this in a couple minutes. We were just looking, someone's looking if you could show them some examples of assessments you've done for French immersion.
Yes, and that's going to be the next slide. So I'm glad you asked.
Great, thanks.
Good segue. Yeah, so the next slide is Gradebook data tracking. So how you actually track data in FreshGrade. So this is just an overview of what it looks like. And again, this is a demo account. So there's no actual student names. These aren't actually real assessments, but it's examples of things that I have used or am planning on using in my classroom. So I'll just go ahead and show you it. It's probably easier to show you what it looks like. But when I go into Gradebook, so you'll see here that I have some activities I've already set up. So one thing I used it for, just really simple in math, was once a week we do one of those 5-minute math multiplication fact challenges and see them progress. So on a weekly basis, I would just go on FreshGrade and say with their multiplication facts, how are they doing? Are they excelling? Are they progressing? Do they still need support? Do they need to keep practicing? So that's one example here. And one of the things that I like about it too is when you add an assessment into FreshGrade, you can put a description of it, you can put in the actual learning objective. So that way when parents see it, you can put a little description of what is it that you're doing, why is this important? So I just put a little note here, 5-minute math challenge, how many math facts can you complete in 5 minutes? The max is 100. You can also do an attachment if you want, and I think I did for this example. So here I put an attachment. I just took a quick picture of the kids' 5-minute challenge so the parents can see, oh, okay, last week they got 76 out of 100. The next week they did 77 out of 100. So they can actually see what their child's producing. And in the past, this would have been all stuff that I would have had to send home, and then you need to make sure the kid actually gave it to their parents, and then it ends up crumpled up in the bottom of their school bag, and you want them to sign it and return it, and then it's just so much for you to keep track of. So by posting it online, I don't have to rely on a 10-year-old to give it to their parents, because we know most of the time they're not going to. And I don't have to chase kids to make sure they're giving it to their parents and coming it back to show me that they got it signed to show their parents. I just put it right on FreshGrade and it goes right to their parent. It kind of takes out that unreliable 10-year-old to be the one sharing the information with their parents. So some examples of using it in French immersion. One thing you can potentially use it for is just tracking listening intention. So I don't know if most of you do a message du matin or a morning message routine in your class, but one of the things you really work on in the morning message is listening intention. So, once you've spoken and shared with a partner and I ask you, can you tell me what your partner said, or can you tell me what someone else said that they did on the weekend? And I find when it comes to writing report cards, for example, you usually don't have any data about that. So when you're thinking about speaking and listening skills and you're like, okay, this child, I'm pretty sure they usually listen and usually, but you don't really have any data to support it. It's kind of all anecdotal. So one thing that you can potentially do is just put a listening intention in. And then when you're doing your morning message, you can have your iPad open. And I will say the iPad is much more user-friendly than it looks like on the computer. It's kind of unfortunate that I couldn't share it on my iPad, but I didn't know how well that would work with Teams. But yeah, I put in here listening attention, and I put a little description, listening attentively to peers during morning message discussion. I put the learning outcome, and that could just be a yes, no. So I could do each day. You know, I won't ask everybody every day, obviously, but maybe I just record weekly. And each week I'll say yes, no. When I ask so-and-so if they were able to tell me what their partner had responded to in the question, are they able to tell me yes or no? And then I actually have data. Maybe I see, you know, this one child, 5 weeks in a row, they weren't able to tell me what their partner said. I need to be concerned there. Are they not able to understand what their partner's saying in French? Are they just off task? Do they really need to work on their listening skills? Is it an attention issue? I don't know. So again, something that you normally wouldn't actually have data for, now you're able to show data and communicate that with parents. Another thing that I potentially use for French immersion that I was going to use as my example here would be, again, with speaking. Like I said, it's usually really hard to have data and to actually track whether or not students are able to use target skills. So one example, for example, might be if you're working on past tense verbs in your classroom. So maybe you're working on writing a narrative and they need to use past tense verbs. So you're working on passé composé. So as part of my speaking goals would be to have students orally use past tense verbs. So I might want to set that as a speaking intention. So I can click add activity here. And for my title, I'll put use past tense.
Can you share your screen again?
Oh, am I not sharing my screen?
No.
Oh, it says I am.
You were, but we're not seeing your screen right now.
Oh, weird. I'll reshare it.
Oh, maybe Lindsay just said she can see it, but I can't.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I couldn't see it for some reason. Interesting.
Can you see
Okay,
it
perfect. Thanks, everyone.
I can see it.
Everyone can see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I hope I wasn't talking too long without you seeing my screen. Okay, so if I want to create the activity, use past tense verbs, and I can put a description here for parents, so I can say we are working on using past tense verbs when speaking and writing. And then over here you have a category option. So if you teach elementary school where you teach multiple subjects, you can set up categories. So I will put this under oral communication. I have categories set up for writing, math, and reading too. Objectives, I can put the actual learning objective in here if I want. I won't take time to do that right now. And then I'm going to choose my assessment tool. So the frequency scale I set up before, consistently, routinely, sometimes, rarely, is probably the one I would use for this assessment. So if I'm talking about using past tense verbs, do they do it consistently, routinely, sometimes, or rarely? So I'll choose that. And select students. So I can choose to put this assessment only for specific students. In this case, I would do my whole class, but maybe in math, for example, you're working on a specific outcome and you have students on PLPs that wouldn't be working on this outcome. You just wouldn't select them for that. So I'm going to save it. So now my past tense verb has come up. And again, like I said, it's much easier to do on the iPad. On the iPad, it just comes up, but I can just click and select, but same thing here. So student 1, I'm going to listen to them talk about what they did last night. I'm going to listen for past tense verbs, and I'll say they either consistently, routinely, sometimes, or rarely use past tense verbs. So it would just go through and select what they're able to do and complete. So now when I go back to my gradebook, I have used past tense verbs, and I can see how each student has done. Now at the top, it gives me like a little summary. So most of my students are doing it routinely. One final nice little thing I'll show you with this is you can also copy an activity. So say I want to check the multiplication facts I'm doing weekly, or listening to their past tense verbs that maybe I'm doing weekly. I can click on it and choose copy. And I'm going to copy that exact assignment. And then there, I don't have to type everything out again. I have it in there again, and then all I have to do is the next week go and click on it. Oops. Oh, I think I forgot to choose the students. Edit. So I'll just make sure I actually select students to apply it to. There we go. That was my problem. Save. There we go. And then the next week, I should just be able to go in and do the same assessment again. You can also add little anecdotes or notes too if you want that parents will see. Any questions about that part so far?
We have one question up here. It said you might have already answered this, but can you do an assessment but not share it with parents?
I was trying
Lindsay,
to figure. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I think there is a way, but I don't know what it is. But I was trying to figure that out when I was playing around with the demo account. And I think the district, this is the free account that I'm on right now. I don't think the district account is set up to share the assessments with parents. I think just the free account does that. I'm not 100% sure, but on my district account, it hasn't shared this on the student portfolio. So I think it's just the free version that does it. I think that is turned off on the district account.
oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Carmen asked, can you group your assessments by subject/strand? And I think you were kind of showing that a couple of frames ago.
Yeah, so there is, you can set up categories. So if I go back here, I have categories set up. So if I want to filter and I don't want to look at everything, I can click here, and maybe I just want to look at my oral communication. So I'll do that. And then that's only my oral communication that's showing up. Also, if you say perhaps are a middle school teacher, you can set up a different page for each class. So for my grade 5 class, I just have that set up, and I have all subjects under there. But for example, say you teach grade 7, you teach language arts and social studies and health, you can set up a different class. So here I have a grade 7 math account set up. So if you were teaching different classes, you could have a class set up for each class. And then that way it would be kept separate as well. But for elementary, yeah, you can just set up different categories and put your assessment under the proper category. And if I want to look at just math, I can see just math.
And if you are using the licensed account, your data will be pushed from PowerSchool. Mm-hmm. So this means that if you are a combined class, you will have a section that is grade 3 math and grade 4 math because they're two different sections. And the only spot where you'll have all of those students combined would be your homeroom.
Right. And
so
that's
keep that in mind as you're setting up I'm talking to some of the people that are new that you're going to see some of this happening. And if you need help with that, let us know.
And we did, like at our school, like when everything was pushed from PowerGrade, it did give us like a class for every subject. So it gave me a FILA class, it gave me health, it gave me everything. But at our school, we just put everything under homeroom. Right. So that parents only had to like look at one page and there was only one student portfolio. So we just renamed the homeroom. I just renamed it to 5 Howlett, and we just put everything under there. So if you did have a split class, you would still have all your students under there and could just do it all in one.
Right. And I think you also did at Park Street, you also added your principal to your groups, correct?
We added our admin, so principal, VP, we added the phys ed teacher, music teacher.
Right.
You can add anybody, yeah.
Right, right.
So if I go back to FreshGrade here, I can click class sharing and then invite a colleague. So if I want to add Karla, for example, I click invite a colleague. I would put her email in here and it'll send her an email and add her to FreshGrade so that she can access my class.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you can only invite people that are part of your staff. So for example, if you wanted an EA to be part of your FreshGrade group, they're not added because they're not part of your staff that's within PowerSchool. So keep that in mind also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody?
There was one up there about, it says any advice on how to use FreshGrade and Teams at the same time. Seems overwhelming to use both, but they each have parts I'd like to use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made a conversation about that, or I added to that. Teams is great too. Teams has got that one-to-one, face-to-face, or one to small group, or one to whole class video conferencing you can do, which FreshGrade is missing that piece.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference for me, I feel.
Yeah. Now at Park Street, FreshGrade is what our main platform or was last year, and we use Teams for meetings,
Right.
to video conference. So I guess it kind of, what your administration wants you to use too, right?
Right.
And it was just nice, like our school was very consistent. Everybody used FreshGrade as a communication platform and then used Teams to do virtual meetings. So it made it easy for families when everyone was doing the same thing, so that if a parent has 2 or 3 children in your school, it's not something different in every room. So I think as a staff, you just need to figure out what works best for you and your community and your families, and then try to stick with it. And I mean, anything new is going to be uncomfortable or difficult to learn it. But once you get into the groove and get comfortable with it, and it really is helpful.
And you can do a step-by-step process. It doesn't have to be all this at once. When you first start out, maybe the first thing you're going to do is send out an announcement, and that's it.
Yeah.
Second week, third week, fourth week, well, let's do the portfolio pictures of all the students. Like each school can set up kind of a timeline of what that could look like as a team of teachers or a school. And Mark and I can both support schools with that process.
Yeah. Any other questions on the data tracking? Okay, I'll go to the next slide then. So then the next part is just about providing feedback to students and parents. And Karla already talked about this a little bit, about how you can use that portfolio to provide feedback. So for example, you can upload evidence of student learning. You can type descriptive feedback, but there's also an option to do a quick note. So a quick note is kind of like you can put in like praise or next steps that are very common. You might find that you're kind of typing the same thing over and over again. So you can just click quick note and kind of auto enter. So those are kind of some of the examples from quick note, but you might put stuff like great job using adjectives. That could be a praise you could choose from your comment bank. And you could put be sure to carefully review punctuation as a next step. So create a comment bank for yourself just to kind of make it a little bit easier when you're giving feedback. Again, FreshGrade kind of eliminates the need for sign and return. I remember when I started out as a teacher, that was one of the administrative things I was most frustrated with, was keeping track of who sent what back and chasing down kids to take things home and sign them. It ends up eating up a lot of time that's not really valuable in the long run. So when you can make sure it's sent right to parents and see on FreshGrade that a parent has seen it or a parent has commented on it, it just takes a lot of that back and forth out.
Yeah.
And it also allows for conversations to happen with parents and their children. If you are a parent or you've ever talked to a kid, you say, "What you do at school today?" 99% of the time, the answer is nothing, which isn't true. So FreshGrade kind of serves as a conversation starter. Instead of saying, "What did you do at school today?" you can say, "Oh, I see your teacher posted this writing piece or posted a picture of you doing this project. Tell me more about it." So it gives parents the ability to have a meaningful conversation with their children about their learning, and serves as a jumping off point. I'll just show you. So again, on my demo account for student 1, I just did some examples of things that you could potentially post. So here you'll see and this answers a question from before. So here you'll see where I did the assessments. There is, I'm remembering this now, an option where you can go in and make an assessment private. So here, for example, it put the listening intention on the child's account. Where is it? And there is, I know, an option to make it private. So I think when I go to edit, yeah, I can choose to keep private. There we go. So if I didn't want the parent seeing the listening intention for morning message every day, I just want that performative assessment, I don't really need to communicate that, I can choose to make it private. And that way the parent doesn't see it. So here are the other assessments I did. Like I said, with this one, I put a picture of it so that they could see. A writing piece. So when I was able to put a comment, Oops. So I gave feedback, great job using paragraphs, you're showing great progress. A parent could go ahead and comment on that. Another option too that I'll talk about in a minute though is that students can also use the student app so they can share information. So here I pretended I was a student, I put a picture of my dog. So maybe in class, your first couple of weeks of school and you're getting to know each other and you've been talking about pets and what you have at home. The student could go home, post a picture of their pet, write a couple little sentences underneath, and then the next day you could do a show and tell where the student shares their picture from FreshGrade. You could use that for anything, like say they had a hockey tournament on the weekend and they won a gold medal. Maybe they'll upload a picture to their student FreshGrade because they want to share it with the class. Or they went on a vacation and they want to share a picture from their vacation when they come back and tell them about it. So it really is just a way to bridge school and the home community together and give students that kind of sense. Oops. So then, yeah, the very last thing I just wanted to talk about, and I kind of was getting into it there, was about empowering learners. So in our first couple years at Park Street, we really focused on the teacher to parent communication and formative assessment. So I've used it a lot myself to post things to communicate with parents. But the next step really is getting students involved in the process. So students can log in with the Student FreshGrade account. And again, if you're using the district license, they're just going to log on with their MBSS student username and password. And then they can be a part of the process. So you could have a weekly task. So you could be, this week, our task is going to be to post a picture of a writing sample you're proud of and write why you're proud of it. So students then, when they are ready, would get the iPad, go post their account so their parents can see and so that you can see. So instead of collecting all their writing portfolios, if they want to post a picture of what they're proud of and then put a couple sentences underneath, I'm really proud of this writing piece because I think the story is funny and I really worked hard on adding adjectives. Great. So you just got the student to reflect on their learning, take pride in their learning, and share that with their parents and with their teacher. Other things that you could do as well, I think I have a list of ideas here. So record videos of them reading at home. So if your student's at home and they're reading for homework, you can make your task that week. This week, I want everyone to practice a book and record a video of you reading at home and post it on FreshGrade. So I think FreshGrade can do videos up to a minute long. So up to 1 minute, you can practice a part of your book, practice your fluency, post a video of it on FreshGrade. For French immersion or EAL, you can use it to monitor language progression. So you could give them speaking prompts throughout the year. And with a partner, their partner films them speaking about that topic on FreshGrade. And then you can use that throughout the year to go back and see, let's see how much you've progressed with your speaking in French. Look how comfortable you are in December speaking about what you did on the weekend versus how you were in September. Explaining a math strategy. So you might want a student to record a video or draw a diagram and post on their FreshGrade them explaining a math strategy. That way, if they're working at home and they forget what they're doing, they can go on to FreshGrade and look at their own explanation of a math strategy or explain it to their parents. I will also frequently post pictures of anchor charts. So again, whether it's a reading comprehension strategy we're working on or a math strategy we're working on, once I've done the anchor chart with my class, I'll take a picture and post it to FreshGrade. That way parents see it, and if the student wants to practice the strategy at home, they have access to the anchor chart. Again, like pictures from special occasions, field trips are always nice to post online. So if you do a classroom party, Christmas concert day, field trips, maybe have a pizza party, whatever. It's nice to post pictures and parents can see their kids having fun at school. Formative assessment, we already talked about that, and I just mentioned anchor charts. So that's some of the ways I have used and will continue to use FreshGrade going forward to kind of communicate and share with parents. Any questions there?
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that last slide. That really puts things in perspective of what we can do in our classrooms and what students can do. It's really good to see those things. It is 10:45. I forgot we weren't going till 11, so we have to kind of close it down. But I wanted to thank you two so much for presenting this to us. It's a really great overview of what FreshGrade can do in your classroom, and it supports that formative and summative assessment pieces that we're looking for. I did put up the link to the little spot there where you fill it out one per session, like Jeff told us, and you'll be eligible to win one of the several door prizes at this afternoon's closing session. So if you can join us at 3:45 to hear from our MBTA president, Rick Cumming, and find out if you'll be a lucky winner. So the link is there for you. And ladies, thank you so much for your time. And everyone that was here, thank you for giving up a little piece of your summer. It's the last week of freedom, I guess, or the final week of March break, or however you want to put it. And we're just looking to have a great week and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thanks.
Karla, we were worried about not having enough, and then we ran out of time.
I know. Is
That's what
everybody
always
fine?
happens to me. Like,
Yeah, no, that was really good. I didn't think we were going to go an hour. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah, that's great. All right, well, enjoy your day, everybody.
All right. I don't know if
Bye.
everybody's there. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Okay, bye. Oh.